The future of Angelina Jordan, will she become one of the greatest voices in music history? Most artists are measured by what they have already done. Their past hits, their current popularity, their visible success. But some artists are different. They are not defined by their past. They are defined by what they are becoming. And that is exactly where the story of Angelina Jordan stands today. Because after everything we have seen, the Barefoot performances, the emotional voice, the global attention, one question still remains. Not who she is, but who she will become. When Angelina Jordan first appeared on Norway's Got Talent, no one expected the moment that followed. A young girl, standing quietly, singing with a voice that felt far older than her years. That moment introduced her to the world. But it also created a challenge. Because when you start at such a high level, the expectations never go down. They only rise. And this is where many young artists struggle. They peak early. They burn out. Or they spend years trying to prove that their first success was not a coincidence. But Angelina Jordan took a different path. She did not rush to prove anything. She did not flood the industry with endless releases. She did not chase trends just to stay visible. Instead, she slowed down. And that decision may define her future more than anything else. Because in today's music industry, speed is common. Everyone is releasing something. Everyone is trying to stay relevant. But very few artists are building something timeless. And Angelina Jordan appears to be focused on exactly that. When she later stepped onto the stage of America's Got Talent, The Champions, the world saw something important. Growth. Not just in her voice, but in her presence. She was no longer just a talented child. She was becoming an artist. Her voice carried more control, more depth, more intention. And yet, the emotional honesty that first captured attention was still there. This balance is rare. Because as artists grow, they sometimes lose the raw feeling that made them special in the beginning. But Angelina Jordan managed to evolve without losing that connection. And that raises an important question. What happens next? Because the next phase of any artist's career is the most critical. This is where they define their identity. This is where they decide whether they will follow trends or create something lasting. For Angelina Jordan, the foundation is already strong. Her influences are rooted in timeless music. Artists like Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald shaped a style that does not expire with time. That kind of musical DNA is powerful because it allows an artist to remain relevant across generations. But influence alone is not enough. The future will depend on decisions. Creative decisions, strategic decisions, and personal growth. One of the most important moments that hinted at her future potential came when legendary producer Quincy Jones recognized her talent. This was not just praise. It was validation from someone who has shaped the careers of the greatest artists in history, including Michael Jackson. That kind of recognition suggests something deeper. Potential at the highest level. And when she signed with Republic Records, it marked the beginning of a new phase. A transition. From a rising talent to a professional artist with global reach. But here is where things become interesting. Because having potential and becoming legendary are not the same thing. Many artists have talent. Few build legacy. So what separates the two? Consistency, identity, and connection. Consistency means continuing to grow without losing direction. Identity means knowing who you are as an artist, even when the industry pushes you to change. Connection means creating music that people feel, not just hear. Angelina Jordan already shows signs of all three. But the future will test them. There will be pressure to release more, to sound more commercial, to fit into trends. And how she responds to that pressure will shape her path. Because if she stays true to her core, If she continues focusing on emotional storytelling, if she builds her music around authenticity instead of popularity, then her career could follow a very different trajectory. Not just success, but significance. The kind of significance that places an artist in a completely different category. The category of voices that last. Voices that people return to years later. Voices that feel timeless. Voices that define eras without trying to. And this is where the title of this story becomes more than just a question. Will Angelina Jordan become one of the greatest voices in music history? The answer is not written yet. Because greatness is not decided in a moment. It is built over time. Through choices. Through growth. Through consistency. But the foundation is there. The voice is there. The emotion is there. And most importantly, the authenticity is there. Which means the possibility is real. And as long as she continues on this path, the world will keep watching, keep listening, and keep wondering. Not about what she has already done, but about what is still to come. Because sometimes, the most powerful part of a story is not the beginning. It is the future. And for Angelina Jordan, that future may be greater than anyone expects. And as that future begins to slowly take shape, there is another layer to Angelina Jordan's journey that many people overlook. It is not just about music. It is about timing. Because in every generation, certain artists arrive at exactly the right moment. Not because they planned it, but because the world is ready for something different. Right now, the music industry is faster than it has ever been. Songs rise and fall within weeks. Trends appear and disappear almost instantly. Artists compete for attention in a space that never stops moving. And in the middle of all that noise, something unusual happens when people hear Angelina Jordan. They slow down. They listen. They feel. That reaction is not accidental. It reflects something deeper about what audiences are searching for. In a world filled with constant stimulation, people are beginning to value authenticity again. They are looking for voices that feel real. Stories that feel honest. Moments that feel genuine. And this is where Angelina Jordan's position becomes incredibly powerful. Because she is not trying to compete with the noise. She stands outside of it. Her music does not rush. Her performances do not overwhelm. Her voice does not demand attention. It draws it. And that difference may become one of the most important advantages of her entire career. Because over time, audiences begin to recognize what feels different. They begin to return to it. And slowly, that difference becomes identity. But identity alone is not enough. Every artist eventually reaches a point where they must evolve. Not by losing who they are, but by expanding it. For Angelina Jordan, that evolution may come through original music. Up to this point, many people know her through her interpretations of classic songs. Her ability to take familiar music and make it feel new. But the next step is something deeper. Creating music that belongs entirely to her. Because when an artist begins telling their own story through original songs, everything changes. The emotion becomes more personal. The connection becomes stronger. The identity becomes clearer. And if Angelina Jordan brings the same level of sincerity and emotional depth into her own music, the result could be something extraordinary. Another important part of her future will be collaboration.